Let's examine two different evaluations of Sun Quan. The first praises him with phrases like, a hero finds his place in Sun Zhongmou, to have a son, one should wish for a Sun Zhongmou, and to personally shoot a tiger, look to Sun Lang. The second set of phrases derogates him, Sun Trash, Sun 100,000, Sun Corgi, and Great Wei and Wu King. These two groups of words refer to the same person, Sun Quan, but their sentiments are diametrically opposed. These two sets of phrases describe the same person, Sun Quan, but their implications are diametrically opposed. In the era of the Three Kingdoms, many figures were known for their loyalty, treachery, kindness, and evilness, including emperors and generals like Cao Cao, Zhuge Liang, Liu Bei, and Guan Yu. These figures from the Three Kingdoms are also controversial, having been questioned and even denied by countless people over more than 1,000 years. However, they are acknowledged as being formidable figures of their time. Yet, in today's context, hardly anyone has as polarized a public image as Sun Quan. Let's start with the basics. Sun Quan, style Zhongmou, is the founder of the Wu Kingdom in the Three Kingdoms period. His father was Sun Jian and his brother was Sun Ce. At first glance, this might seem trivial, but it's actually quite significant. This is because if you were to ask who Cao Cao's father is, most people would pause. And then, if you were to ask about Liu Bei's father, is there a connection? Absolutely, and it's a significant one. This is because it touches upon one of the most important periods in the Three Kingdoms. The reason we cannot discuss Sun Quan without mentioning Sun Jian and Sun Ce is because the fathers of Cao Cao, Liu Bei, and Sun Quan, with Sun Jian being roughly contemporaries. In the early stages of the broader Three Kingdoms period, specifically from the Yellow Turban Rebellion in AD 184 to Cao Cao victory over Yuan Shao at the Battle of Guandu in AD 200, which essentially unified the north, this pre-Three Kingdoms era was marked by a tumultuous struggle for power among various warlords. The old order had collapsed and a new order had not yet been established. Many familiar names, such as Dong Zhuo, Liu Bu, Yuan Shao, Yuan Shu, Gong Sun Zan, Tao Qian, Liu Yu, Liu Dai, Zhang Miao, Zhang Xiu, Ma Teng, Han Sui, and Kong Rong were thrust into prominence by the times, each having the opportunity to fight for and defend what they believed to be right. What happened to them later? As the Meditations describes, consider those who were once hailed as great, where are they now? They have vanished like smoke, some have left stories behind, while others do not even merit half a story. This includes figures like Sun Jian and Sun Ce. In AD 200, while Cao Cao and Yuan Shao were locked in a fierce battle at Guandu, Sun Ce was assassinated in Jiangdong. Sun Quan then ascended to power. At that time, Sun Quan was just 18 years old by today's counting. In simpler terms, it was as if a grand game had started a new season, with all of Jiuzhou being unclaimed land. Whoever seized the good lands and mines first owned them. It didn't matter if one was inexperienced, as the enemy was more so. Sun Quan missed this crucial initial phase of expansion entirely. Anyone who has played a Romance of the Three Kingdoms, the strategic edition, would understand what this phase means. In a zero-sum game of land and resources, being even slightly late could mean maintaining a gap for the entire season. Some say that Sun Quan missed the initial phase, but what about Sun Jian and Sun Ce? Weren't they continuing the legacy of their father and brother? In reality, the roles of Sun Jian and Sun Ce in the founding of Wu were not as significant as some might think, especially in the case of Sun Jian. Although he was known as the Tiger of Jiangdong, and was indeed capable in battle, he did not establish a base in Jiangdong. Sun Jian did briefly serve as the prefect of Changsha, but for most of the period of contention among warlords, he went north to join forces with Yuan Shu. Yuan Shu's stronghold was in Nanyang, Henan, so Sun Jian's final title, secured for him by Yuan Shu, was General who breaks the barbarians and Inspector of Yuzhou. A Romance of the Three Kingdoms glosses over this period, creating the false impression that Sun Jian returned to Jiangdong, but this leaves a plot hole, Sun Jian crossing the river to strike at Liubiao, and reaching the northern parts of Jingzhou, such as Fancheng and Dengcheng, which, with a glance at the map, clearly indicates an approach from the north. A Records of the Three Kingdoms clarifies, in the third year of the Chuping era, Shu sent Jian to campaign against Jingzhou to strike Liu Biao. Biao dispatched Huangzu to resist between Fan and Deng. Sun Jian died in this campaign at the age of 37. This means that the later foundation of Jiangdong had little to do with Sun Jie. The most valuable legacy Sun Jian left to his descendants was the practically worthless title of general who breaks the barbarians. From this, it can be seen that the Sun family's background was actually quite humble. Cao Cao's father, Cao Teng, and grandfather, Cao Song, were high officials of the Han dynasty. Although Yuan Shao insulted Cao Cao by calling him a sterile flatterer, such remarks only carried weight coming from someone of Yuan Shao's standing, placing Cao Cao far above the common populace in comparison. Liu Bei, despite losing his father at a young age and not having a wealthy family, was at least a legitimate descendant of the Han dynasty, tracing back to the prince of Zhongshan, Jing. What about Sun Jian ancestors? They were nobodies. Even if we force a connection to Sun Zhong, who supposedly encountered an immortal while planting melons, it remains highly dubious, not to mention tracing back to Sun Wuzi from several hundred years prior. Who would recognize you then? The starting point for the Sun family was indeed low. Sun Jian risked his life and managed to leave a bit of status for his descendants. Compared to Sun Jian, Sun Ce's actual achievements were much greater. Sun Ce initially followed Yuan Shu as well, but soon saw that there was no future in it and decided to return home with a group of old friends and brothers. The problem was, by that time, Sun Ce was essentially a stranger in his own homeland. The main battleground of the warlord contention was in the north, but that didn't mean the south was free of people carving out their own territories. Upon returning, Sun Ce found that not a single piece of prime land was left for him. Should he follow the old pattern and seek protection from a larger faction? He thought he might as well stick with Yuan Shu then, but no, there was no choice but to fight. Thus, Sun Ce spent 5 to 6 years, from 195 AD crossing the river until 200 AD, conquering the local forces in Jiangdong. Eventually, he was assassinated by a hired killer at the young age of 26. Thus, the legacy inherited by Sun Quan was not one where vast territories had been conquered by his father, leaving him to simply enjoy the spoils. The Sun family had no real foundation in Jiangdong. Sun Ce had subdued the local forces with his rapid and forceful military prowess, but many submitted only outwardly, harboring dissent, leading to his eventual assassination. Prior to taking over, Sun Quan lacked leadership and military experience, with many within the Sun corporate group and even his own clan distrustful of him. In fact, had Sun Ce not died so unexpectedly and at such a young age, the foundation in Jiangdong might not have fallen to Sun Quan. So, this was not a question of how a second generation could enjoy its privileges but rather how he could survive. Yet, Sun Quan did survive. Moreover, from the 5th year of the Jian period when he took power until the 13th year, Sun Quan accomplished the following. First, he consolidated his rule. Aside from a brief clan rebellion at the beginning of his reign, no one in Jiangdong dared to attempt to replace Sun Quan for the rest of his life. Next, he maintained the foundation in Jiangdong. Whether it was the veterans from Sun Jian and Sun Ce campaigns, the elite troops from Huaiyansi, or the major clans and exiled warriors of Jiangdong, under Sun Quan leadership, they coalesced into a unified entity. Sun Ce had once waged war against the Lu clan of Wujun, a major family in Jiangdong, incurring deep-seated enmity. However, later, members of the Lu family, such as Lu Ji and Lu Xun, played significant roles under Sun Quan. The importance of Lu Xun contributions needs no elaboration. Adapting to his circumstances, Sun Quan crafted a comprehensive military system that leveraged the natural defenses of the Yangtze River, focusing on naval forces and archers as the core of his military advantage. When facing the formidable Cao Cao, who had already unified the north, Sun Quan boldly confronted him head-on and even secured a victory, playing a key role in the military alliance with Liu Bei. At the age of 27, Sun Quan's status as either an ordinary man or a hero no longer needed further clarification. So, how did the labels a trash, 100,000, and a Corgi come about? The Battle of Zhuge Liang not only was a pivotal conflict that established the tripartite division of the three kingdoms but also represented the supreme glory of Jiangdong and Sun Quan himself. If Sun Quan's life had been frozen at that point, he would undoubtedly have been remembered as an even more legendary and illustrious figure than Sun Ce. However, things did not remain so. Sun Quan lived to the age of 71. Among the over 500 emperors in Chinese history with known lifespans, his age ranks within the top 10. The Battle of Zhibi, for Sun Quan's lengthy life, was merely an endlessly memorable starting point. After Zhibi, the tripartite balance was established. But looking back, the situation in Jiangdong had not fundamentally improved. This battle was a defensive one for Jiangdong. While the home was indeed preserved, there was little gain. Most importantly, Jiangdong's strategy did not shift from holding on to a striking out, and despite the victory, this did not change the fact that Jiangdong severely lacked a strategic offensive direction. Reality is indeed harsh. By the time Sun Quan got through his development phase, there was no unclaimed land left. The major traditional granaries, which were the resource-rich provinces suitable for development, were out of his reach. The few remaining lords who had not been annexed, such as Zhang Lu in Dongchuan, Liu Zhang in Xichuan, Ma Chao and Han Sui in Xiliang, and Gong Sunyuan in Liaodong. Just by their locations, it's clear that Sun Quan couldn't reach any of them due to the initial phase's setbacks. The difficulty of crossing the river to reach the central plains is imaginable. If Sun Quan could have developed large-scale, long-distance air drops or cross-sea combat technologies 1800 years ago, the Three Kingdoms period might not have existed. But without seizing these last few pieces of territory, no matter how much Sun Quan developed in Jiangdong, he could only continue developing in Jiangdong. Stripping away the aura of Zhibi, Sun Quan really cannot be compared with Cao Cao or Liu Bei, both of whom were major players from the start of the season, while Sun Quan was essentially a civilian player. Despite Sun Quan's temporary strength appearing far superior to Liu Bei had been fully engaged from the beginning of the season, with a full roster of top-tier generals, and was extremely adept at seizing opportunities in battle, even engaging with bandit forces, making him much more agile. Sun Quan had only two paths for further development: 1. To cross the Yangtze River northward; 2. To occupy Jingzhou to the west and thereby take Shu. This was very clear at the time. However, the first path was directly blocked by Cao Cao. The Yangtze River indeed presented a natural barrier. But as a natural formation, the Yangtze was impartial to both sides of its banks. Occupying the south bank of the Yangtze for defense was advantageous for Jiangdong. Once crossing to the north bank, a poor engagement could make return difficult. Tactical adjustments, rear support, and logistical supply were all significant challenges. Although Cao Cao was defeated, his strength remained formidable. He had preemptively fortified several key locations in the north, with Hefei being the most representative. Sun Quan did attempt to attack, engaging in numerous battles but repeatedly being thwarted by the strong fortifications. The most perilous instance was when he was counterattacked by Zhang Liao, resulting in heavy losses, in the well-known incident of Gate 100 defeating 10,000. The meme Sun 100,000 originates from this event. The other path involved competing with Liu Bei, leading to the Jingzhou ownership dispute that has remained contentious for over 1,000 years. In reality, Jingzhou itself was secondary. Particularly critical was who controlled northern Jingzhou, as it meant facing Cao Cao directly. The real key to Jingzhou was the access it provided to Shu. Sun Quan, Zhou Yu, and Gan Ning earnestly tried this approach but were repelled by Liu Bei, whose true aim was also to take Shu. There's no point in debating right or wrong in this matter. If Sun Quan did not contend, he would not have been able to continue. This is precisely what frustrated Sun Quan the most and has been the source of much criticism in later generations. In terms of legitimacy, Cao Cao eliminated the northern warlords as the prime minister to the emperor, effectively the ruler of the dynasty. Liu Bei, no matter how one puts it, was of the Han royal lineage, giving him inherent legitimacy. In terms of public image, Cao Cao was recognized for his grand talent and ambition, having established a vast empire. The Liu Bei group was celebrated for its humanity and eternal ideals. Stripping away moral bias and considering from a realist perspective, the legitimacy of Jiangdong's survival was equal to that of Cao Cao and Liu Bei. It's not as if the order established by the predecessors must be followed by the successors without question. The Liu Bei group's slogan of restoring the Han dynasty was indeed inspiring, but they still had to grow their power by annexing Liuzhang, ensuring they could survive first. Cao Cao, in his early days. Let's move on to the next topic. As everyone knows, Sun Quan never secured access to Shu, missing the last opportunity for expansion. But the game had to go on. Sun Quan and Lu Meng changed Jiangdong's strategy to active defense. For this, it was necessary to seize Jingzhou and fully control the Yangtze River. Sun Quan took advantage of Guan Yu's northern campaign to capture Jingzhou. Liu Bei sought revenge, leading to the title of Dawei Wu Wang, the Battle of Yiling, and the realliance of Wu and Shu. Years later, when Zhuge Liang exhausted himself in his northern campaigns, Sun Quan was still in Jiangdong, maintaining the alliance and continuously attacking Wei, though nearly forgotten by then. Zhuge Liang's northern campaign was the last highlight of the Three Kingdoms period in a narrow sense, but Sun Quan lived on for many more years. His confidence wavered, his reactions dulled, sometimes he even made backward decisions, knowing he wasn't the protagonist in this long game. Yet, he kept playing seriously, on and on, until the server shut down, the season ended, turning into a set of cold data on a hard drive. Only occasionally, when revisiting history, might you remember that Sun Quan was such a character, full of memes yet charming, living a life full of twists and legends. So, how should we put it? Compared to his contemporaries Cao Cao and Liu Bei, Sun Quan indeed appeared somewhat weaker. If reality were a game, perhaps Sun Quan wouldn't have chosen to start under such passive circumstances. But reality is reality, just like each of us, we can't choose the era, family, region, or country we're born into. For some, survival is for the sake of an ideal, while for others, the ideal is merely to survive. With so many variables and pressures, these are not reasons for us to give up on life. Facing everything bravely, continuing to live, actively striving to improve, and making regret-free choices in this irreversible game of life, then everyone can be called a hero. From this perspective, Sun Quan is worthy of the title of hero. He might not have achieved what some people imagine, but for himself, he did his best. His life has relevance and even inspirational value for contemporary people. When we talk about Sun Quan today, it may include many emotions and projections, the hope to live such a rich and tumultuous life, the desire to be supported by others and have a stable foundation, the wish to never give up no matter the situation, and to have some sort of mystical luck. Returning to the previous point, no one is looking to exonerate Sun Quan. If Sun Quan were alive, he surely wouldn't care about this matter. Each era has its own moral views and standards of praise and criticism, from which even scholars and experts are not exempt. For instance, Liu Simian, a master of historiography, was quite critical of generals like Guan Yu and Yue Fei, because in the era Liu lived in, it was natural to have a disdain for warlords, and thus he projected this disdain onto historical figures. So, when was Sun Quan most highly regarded? During the Song dynasty, especially the southern Song, because only those who have experienced the chaos of the divided lands could truly understand how passive Sun Quan's situation was, how difficult it was to maintain his stance, and how precious his spirit was. Only those who lived through the tumult of the Song dynasty could truly empathize with Sun Quan. And what about us today? Whether we like Sun Quan or not, whether we read history seriously or just enjoy memes, being able to look back and understand all of this in a peaceful era and a relaxed context, and even to immerse ourselves in Sun Quan's role in a game to feel the difficulty of contending for supremacy, is in itself a very fortunate thing. If you like this video, please help me subscribe to the comments to say what you think. Your support is my power to generate income video. Thank you.